วัสดีครับ Professor Marco how are you
Oh, I'm good. Thank you. It is
okay thank you
very nice to see you.
nice to see you too okay I think our speaker are ready now so I will send this floor to the beautiful moderator Dr. Kiratiwan please you can start the forum now
Thank you very much. สวัสดีค่ะ Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I would like to introduce myself first. My name is Dr. Kiratiwan Kalyanamit, a lecturer of College of Politics and Government, Sananta Rajapat University, and I'm very excited today because this is a very big day of our college because this is our first forum and please welcome to the first forum. And then before we start, we are about to take our group photo very shortly. Can you get yourself ready for the camera, please? If it's not bother you too much, please keep your cameras open and then we can see each other and have a nice photo online. 1, 2, 3, smile. Again. Very nice. Thank you very much for your participation. I know it's quite not a casual occasion. We will see each other virtually like this, but thank you, internet and high technology. Okay, it's my great honor to be the moderator today. We are delighted and filled with highest appreciation to give you a warm welcome to the virtual international conference Cpg Forum 2021 and a very special issue, how countries deal with the COVID-19 pandemic. And this conference is aimed at challenging researchers in many areas of politics and international relations in particular to study and create local and international knowledge on innovation, application, and theory to serve our world, especially in this COVID-19 situation. The conference also invites international researchers in order to enhance knowledge exchange and learning from diverse and interesting backgrounds. And this time, before we start the forum, may have an honor of Assistant Professor Police Lieutenant General Dr. Santan Trianon to give welcome speech in this occasion. Please welcome.
Good afternoon, and thank you for joining us today on the Cpg Forum 2021. This is the first forum of our college, which is completely conducted on digital platforms due to the COVID-19 pandemic. It is our pleasure to introduce you to the esteemed guests in this forum who have come from various walks of life. The theme of this forum focuses on how countries deal with the COVID-19 pandemic. We are proud to announce that this forum is being conducted along with the cooperation of the National Graduate Institute for Policy Studies, Japan, City of Toronto, Italy, University of Surabaya, Indonesia, Ministry of Interior, Thailand, and Royal School of Administration, Cambodia. We hope this forum would help students expand their views on policies to deal with the COVID-19 pandemics of each country, including political views related to such political and policies. I would like to thank and acknowledge on the delegates and the support team who have worked hard to make this forum a truly successful. I request all the delegates and the participants to take part in all the activities that we have come up with for the next 2.5 hours. I wish everyone a successful and fruitful forum. My pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Assistant Professor, Police Lieutenant General Dr. Santan Chianon, for indeed a very inspiring and wonderful welcome speech. And now it's time, and I'm still so excited. It's time for our first program of talk to begin. Let me lead you, ladies and gentlemen, to a very interesting topic: public health, healthcare policy of Japan against COVID-19 by Professor Dr. Taishi Ono. Please allow me to briefly introduce him to you. Professor Dr. Ono is currently the Director of Healthcare Policy Concentration, National Graduate Institute for Policy Study, Japan. He obtained his MBA from UC Berkeley, PhD in Economics from Osaka City University, and his specialty includes social security policy and health and long-term care policy. His research interests are social security history, comparative analysis of health and long-term care policy, international contributions for the development of social security, health and long-term care policy. And now this is a very special time, and I will give the stage for you. The session is yours. Please, Professor Dr. Taishi Ono, are you ready to share?
Yes, we can hear.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Sipsawat. Okay, during this time, maybe some little problem technique about Mr. Taishi Ono. Is he still here in this room?
Okay, I will contact him very soon because I think the room is full because he just logged out, and then I will allow him to get in very soon.
Okay, it's okay, it's okay.
Yeah.
Can we skip to the second guest?
Oh yes, maybe you can put Adi. Ask Adi.
Okay.
To
Hi. Good afternoon, Mr. Adi from Indonesia. Our neighbors, very close neighbors.
Okay.
Hi, good afternoon. Okay, I'm very good. I'm very excited, so I'm sorry if I make a little mistake. Okay, therefore, actually, you are going to be the second guest, but it's okay to be the first. Okay, let's know Mr. Adi Tejakusuma. Is this correct?
Yes,
From
correct.
Indonesia, yes, Tejakusuma from Indonesia. In the topic of how countries deal with the COVID-19 pandemic, a case study of Indonesia. Mr. Adi is the director, Office of Institutional Cooperation, University of Surabaya, Indonesia. He obtained his Bachelor of Business from Monash University, Australia, and Master of Commerce from Deakin University, Australia. And he also received DRES Management of Internationalization Program, DALD Germany. Wow. His current research is how countries deal with the COVID-19 pandemic. A case study of Indonesia and Slovakia is a very interesting topic. And now the session is yours. Please welcome Mr. Adi.
Okay, thank you, MC, for the time. Let me share screen first, because by the way, this is my first time of using Google Meet. Wait, but I already tried, so no problem. Can you see my share screen and hear my voice now? Can you?
Yes, clearly.
Can you hear?
I can hear, I can see it.
Okay, I will start, yeah?
Yes, you can start right now. The session is
Okay.
yours.
Okay, thank you. So good afternoon, everyone. I'm Adi from University of Surabaya, Indonesia. It is glad to know you even though virtually here, and hopefully someday what Dr. Wayupot can invite us in person so that we can meet face to face in Thailand. Today I will present about my research of how our my Indonesian government deal with the COVID-19 pandemic. This is my name, Aditya Jakusuma, and I'm lecturer at the Faculty of Business and Economics, and I'm also the Director Office of Institutional Cooperation of my university. And this is my email if you want to contact me. Okay, I will divide my agenda to three. First is the COVID-19 timeline, then the COVID-19 cases, and then the Indonesian government response, how the Indonesian government responds. The timeline I divided in the world, I divided into pre-COVID, during COVID, and post. The pre, before the 31st of December 2019, because the first case was released in 31st December 2019. And the COVID-19 starts on 31st of December until now. And the post is with no one knows about that. That's why I put question marks on it. And currently in the world, there are 244 million around coronavirus cases, COVID-19 cases, with deaths around 5 million, 4.9 million. And then in Indonesia, I'm now going to Indonesia, the COVID-19 cases start in 2nd of March 2020. That's why the COVID-19 period in Indonesia starts to 2nd of March 2020 until now. And the post, no one knows. And this is the news where our Indonesian President Joko Widodo announced the first 2 confirmed COVID-19 cases back in 2nd of March 2020. And recently, in Indonesia, we have 4.2 or 4.3 confirmed cases, and with around 140,000 deaths or fatality. And then later I will also talk about the vaccination. But recently we have 4 million and 140 deaths due to the COVID-19. And this is the daily cases in Indonesia, where if you can see, the most scary or the scariest moment of the cases in Indonesia was back in July, where daily we had around 56,000 cases daily. And now, we are now in October and almost November, we only have around 500 or 600, less than 1,000 daily. So later we will talk how Indonesian government did it, decreasing from 50,000 until around 500 now. Okay, in Indonesia itself, what the government did was establishing the COVID-19 Response Acceleration Task Force back in March 13, 2020. This is the very first task force of the COVID-19 in Indonesia. And after seeing that the COVID-19 was under control, if you see this case, not really high, right? Then this is the start and not really high. Then our president replaced this task force into the mitigation and national economic recovery team. The focus was different for this task force. They focus on health.
I think could you click your PowerPoint slide, please, because it's still on the first slide.
Oh, is it? I already changed it.
Okay.
Okay. Wait. Because on my slides it's already changed. On my slides it's already changed. Wait. How about now? Oh, but now is it changed? Right,
Okay,
what?
it's coming now. Yes.
It is changed? Is it still on the first slide or it is already changed? Now I'm already on 10 slides already.
It's okay.
Yeah, it's changed already. It's
Oh, it's
okay
changed
now.
already. Okay. So yeah, because of time I will go directly to this one. Yes, I'm now on the 10 slides, and uh, on July 22nd, our president changed to the task force into the National Economic Recovery Team, where the task force was focused on the health, increasing the health of the community, while on this economic recovery team, uh, this one was not only focused on the health but also the economic to improve the economic performance of Indonesia. Of course, not to forget the healthy concern for the community. Okay, can you see now? I changed, but then I continue. Can you see my slide changes now?
It's the same slides.
Oh, is that the same slides?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, I will just stop share because I already changed it on my PC, but I don't know what happened. It doesn't change in the share screen. How about this? Can you see? Can you
Okay, it's
see?
changing. Yes, it's changing.
Okay. Okay, I will try to use this one rather than to avoid the things to be changed. Okay, the most critical situation occurred back in July, as I mentioned. At that time, the bed occupancy rate of in Indonesia was more than 60% as the WHO standard. If you see this picture, almost in all provinces in Indonesia, they had around 80 until even 100, 99 of bed occupancy ratio. With the high daily case, it was began from 10,000 and reaches around 56,000, as I showed you, with 45% positivity rate. Okay. Then now I move to the next one. Okay. Can you see it now?
Yes, I can see it.
Okay.
It's changed.
Okay. That critical moment of COVID in Indonesia happened because of this. These are some causes that make that happen. First was because the long holidays and long weekend, where normally during the holiday, people will go to the tourism objects and they will meet each other, and that it increased the cases. If you see, this is the picture during the COVID-19 era, and then there was a very bad traffic jam, and they are all going to a tourist object called Puncak in Jakarta, and this one make one of the cluster of the COVID-19. The second one was the low awareness of wearing mask in the uh, rural area. They were reluctant to wear masks. You see these pictures? See, they don't really like to wear a mask, and they even protest when they were asked to wear a mask. Okay, can you see my share screen still moving? Is that moving or not? Moving? Like what? Or MC? Hello? Testing, testing.
It's still the same slides.
Oh.
Low awareness of wearing masks.
Okay, low awareness. Okay, now here,
Yeah.
yeah. Okay.
Yes.
Now, how did our government respond to that most critical situation at the time? First, at the time, our government implemented what is called the emergency community movement restriction, where at the time, from July 23rd until 23rd of August, they implemented the emergency social restriction to limit the mobility of the Indonesian people. And then once the cases decreases, then they move to the level 3, and then now we are on the level 1 and 2. What is the emergency social restriction? It is like this, and it occurred from July till August, and the car capacity at the time was only 50%. Then mall were closed down all at the time, and only open from 11 till 8, and only for groceries, pharmacies, and takeaway restaurants. So mall basically closed. Only groceries, pharmacies, and restaurant inside that mall are open, and it was only open from 11 till 8. Okay, and then when we move to the level 3 here, kids and elderly were still prohibited, and the visitors must be vaccinated in order to be able to enter the mall. Later, I will show you what the government used as a barcode to allow visitors to enter the mall. Okay, online taxi, apply health protocol. School, of course, full online. Office, full from home. Like my university, I was full work from home from July until September. And then very strict health protocol. The road was almost empty. Then public transport only 70% of capacity with less operational hours. This is for those who work for 25% work from office. Normally use the public transport. And restaurant only delivery. And no dine-in, except during the level 3 PPKM or level 3 social restriction. Okay. Then next, after limiting the mobility of the people, our government also opened the emergency hospital. So like this one, this is the athletes village for the Asian Games back in 2018. And then during the COVID-19, it is changed function to COVID-19 hospital. And also this one also another emergency hospital. Besides that, in the property level or in the housing level, the government also have the isolation center. So this is the normal houses or school that empty, and it is changed to the isolation center, like this one. So this is normal house that was changed to the isolation center. So those who have COVID-19 case, then they will directly placed to this isolation center. And then the government also increased the testing, tracing, and treatment. Once someone feels bad, they will be tested, and then if it says yes, then they will be traced, meaning that the people surrounding him or her that have a contact with him will be traced. Besides, he or she that has the COVID-19 symptom will be treated directly into this isolation center or into the emergency hospital. In this isolation center and hospital, our government provides doctor and medicines, and all are free of charge at the time. Okay, and you can see in this picture, then Indonesia is one of the countries that implement a quite comprehensive tracing, shown by the blue color here. Okay. Then the next one that our government did was changing the public holiday dates. You remember that one of the causes was because of the long holiday, right? Then in order to avoid long weekend, then our government changed the holiday that's supposed to be on Friday, for example, they changed to be Wednesday. Holiday in Monday, they changed the holiday into Wednesday, for example. So they changed the holiday dates. Then this is all, I think, very critical. Encourage vaccination without similar domicile. Previously, in Indonesia, in order to get vaccination, we have people need to have the same domicile. Meaning, if I stay in real estate or housing A, then I need to be vaccinated on that housing A. I cannot be vaccinated in area B or area C. But because of this high COVID-19 cases, then our government eliminated this, and we can do vaccination everywhere we want. Okay, and the target at the time was 1 till 2 million daily, and it reaches now. It is reached now. It is reached now. Okay, then public servants are prohibited going outside for holiday, other province. Okay, this is some pictures of how our government increased and encouraged the vaccination. This is the stadium, the biggest stadium in Jakarta in Indonesia, and this is our president. The vaccination was done in a big stadium in order to get more people get vaccinated. Okay. Then this is the timeline or recent vaccination program in Indonesia. The first vaccination in Indonesia occurred in 13th January 2021, and it was our president who was first vaccinated in Indonesia. So this is the timeline, January till April 2021. It was for healthcare workers and equivalent, still the same period for the Indonesian Army, police, public service officer, law enforcement officers, and 60 years people, old people. And we are now entering this one. This is now for, frankly, for all of us, except for kids under the 12 one. For kids above 12, they were also vaccinated. Okay, and then our university, University of Surabaya, also collaborate with the government, where we have the drive-in vaccination, and it was me when I was vaccinated at my university through drive-through. And in Indonesia, we mostly use Sinovac, then AstraZeneca, then now we have Pfizer and Moderna. But these were the 5 most dominant vaccine brands in Indonesia that are used by Indonesian government, and the Indonesian government has already contracted with all of these companies. And this is the current position of vaccination in Indonesia, and this also contributes why the COVID-19 cases in Indonesia recently is decreasing. From the target to get the herd immunity of 80% of the population. By the way, our population is 260 million. So the 80% is 200 million. Now we already have around 112 for the first vaccination for people who have been first vaccinated. Then for the second, meaning both, around 67 million already had both 2 vaccines. Okay. Then this is the one that I mentioned, that now in order to be able to enter malls, we need to scan this barcode, and it will be this application is connected to the government database, and it says whether we already vaccinated or not. If we cannot scan this barcode, meaning that we haven't been vaccinated yet, and we will be rejected entering the mall. So this what we do, what our government do at the moment. Okay. Then on top of that, our government, of course, not to forget to give economic stimulus for the healthcare, for the social protection. Healthcare meaning we bought various additional healthcare equipments, and it was budgeted around 5 billion US dollar, 7.5 billion for the social protection. This is for the additional money, or for the additional money for those who need, those who in need. Okay. Then we also give a tax incentive, and it contributed around 4.7 billion. Then for the economic recovery, around 10 billion. Okay, this is the for the healthcare one. The government also give monthly allowance for the doctor specialist of US 1,000 US dollar. Then for the general doctor, 750 US dollar monthly, and for the nurses, they give 500 US dollar monthly. Okay, and also our government help the insurance for the people in it. It is called the Social Security Agency insurance. They give subsidy for paying this insurance. Okay, yeah, this one is for the social protection. They give money, they give incentive for basic needs, and for those who are in needs. Okay, they also give a pre-employment card program to prepare those who are in it with how to work, prepare for working. Also give a free electricity for certain KVA, and give also low cost housing subsidy. And then income tax exemption for workers with income below 13,500 US dollar per year. Corporate income tax was decreased from 25 to 22. Then delayed on the payments. And because we are all in university, I will briefly talk about what our Ministry of Education did during this pandemic. Of course, before the last year, of course, they applied the study from home, total study from home, since the starting of the COVID. And then in 2001, they still applied the study from home. They also give the internet quotas, not only for students, but also for lecturers and teachers. Like me, as a lecturer, I receive also this internet quota monthly. So 50 gigabyte monthly and 35 gigabyte monthly for the teachers, and then this one is for the university students or lecturers. And then in 30 March, they actually would like to implement the hybrid teaching, but because of the cases in July, they cancel it. But nowadays, because we only have around 500 daily cases, then most of the universities now implement the hybrid one. Like our university, we also implement the hybrid teaching recently. Okay, that's all from me, and Kap Kun Kap. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Andy. I wish to express my appreciation to the valuable information you share with us today, as we are a very close neighbor, and I think we seem to share suffering for this COVID situation quite a lot. Hope we pass this difficult time together with our cooperation, both of private and government sector, like you share. And now this is a very exciting time, a question and ask. It's time for
Please,
questions.
if you have any
Okay.
question,
Excuse me, Professor,
yes.
I have a question. Yes, my name is Ailada. I'm from the student Sonsunanta University. I would like to know what is the Indonesia treatment protocol for the private sector during COVID-19, and what is your next step for the economic recovery?
Okay, can you hear the
Are you
question clearly?
yes?
What I wasn't really clear with your first question. What was private something? Your voice was not really clear.
Uh,
Can
are
you
you
repeat
understand?
again, Aleda?
Yeah.
Can you
Uh,
repeat again?
okay. I would like to know what is the Indonesia treatment protocol for
Protocol.
private, yes,
Protocol. Yes.
protocol
Health
private
protocol, you mean?
sector and during COVID-19, and what is your next step for the economic recovery?
Hmm.
All
Okay.
right.
So you mean what did our government give to the private sector, and also what is the uh, our government did for the economic recovery? Was
Yes.
that the question, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, our government, as I mentioned, gave many economic incentive and stimulus by reducing the corporate tax from the 25 to 22%. They also give an exemption for the electricity bills for 3 months.
Yeah.
Okay. Uh, on top of that, our government actually prioritize more on the those people in it, meaning that those have the income below average, meaning below 4 million in Indonesia, which is around 300 US dollar. So they give some social protection like the money, 2 million, 1 million or around 100 US dollar monthly for them. And our government also never implemented what is called lockdown. Why is that? Because in Indonesia, the income for our low class one comes from their daily activity, like the online taxi. If our government implement lockdown, then no one can go outside, right?
Mm.
That's why they only implement what is called the social restriction. We can still move out, but our mobility was limited. We can still buy foods, uh, take away or delivery, but we cannot really go outside the restaurant. The objective of our government, of course, in order to keep our economic condition, especially for those low income one, to still be able to earn revenue. It is totally different with lockdown, where all are really are prohibited, meaning that you cannot go outside at all, right? For the lockdown. In Indonesia, we can still go outside, but very limited now. Okay. That was our government did. The tax also give the exemption of the electricity and utility. Okay, and also tax and the utility bills uh, discount were the things that our government gave to the private sectors.
Yeah. Thank you so
Okay.
much. Thank
Thank you.
you.
Yeah. Thank you. Wow, that's a very good point. And thank you so much for sharing with us and with audience. And of course, she is a student of our college from the international relations. Thank you very much, Elada. Okay, thank you, Artie. It's very nice to see you today.
Thank you,
Okay,
MC.
and now it's time. I think Miss Matinee, are you here? Miss Matinee.
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes. I'm sorry. Actually, you're gonna be a third speaker, but I think Professor Arnold still have some problems about the technique, so you're going to be the second speaker. Now it's time, very exciting times again, for our domestic speaker, one and only from Thailand today. Please give a warm welcome to Ms. Metini Nicharat and the topic of the policy against COVID-19. Please give me some time to introduce her to you. Ms. Nicharat is a Director of Human Resource Management Unit and Governor Office of Rayong, and Office Manager of Rayong Red Cross Office since October 2020. After graduate in 2006, she has started her career as a management trainee in public policy, executive development program, and then has been appointed to the current position. Many experience working in several organizations such as Department of Provincial Administration, Department of Local Administration, and Secretariat of the Prime Minister and a few provinces. And then this is a time for you. The session is yours. I will give you a stage now.
Okay. Thank you, Dr. Kiratiwan, for very kind introduction. And I also would like to express my gratitude and appreciation to the Dean and also Dr. Waipot for the very precious opportunity to be part of this very interesting occasion. So today, I would like to share my experience about COVID-19, focusing on local administration and the complication of Thai bureaucratic system, and use my province as the case study. Within 15 minutes, I would try to cover 3 points, composing the COVID-19 situation overview in Thailand, right from the very beginning until the early of this week, and then follow with the role of local government in Thailand. Then later, I will try to summarize information, opinions from involving party concerning COVID-19 crisis and local administration in the complication of Thai bureaucratic system. After those 3 subtopics, I would like to leave some key takeaway, and that would be great if I could hear some feedback from you all. Okay, can you see my presentation clearly?
No, not yet. I can
Not
see
yet?
your presentation. Yes.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
you need to make sure that when you move, the screen also is moving, not like
Okay.
me.
You have
Because I
experience with the
really don't know.
editing.
But
Is,
really it's more funny.
is it good now?
Okay, it's coming. It's coming.
Okay.
coming.
Very clearly.
Okay. Yeah, as I already mentioned about the topic that I will cover today, let's start with the overview COVID situation in Thailand. Last year, Thai had been internationally praised for avoiding COVID-19 disaster and known as a country that rapidly succeeded in preventing widespread transmission of COVID-19 in the first wave, starting in April to June 2020. In total, there are around 3,000 patients and 58 deaths. So no one knows what Thailand is doing right, but so far it's working. People said that. And then in July 2020, WHO and Ministry of Public Health of Thailand conducted a review of the public health COVID response in Thailand. And the result is that we have the very strong leadership informed by the best available scientific evidence, strong, well-resourced and inclusive medical and public health system, consistent and transparent communication leading to compliance of the public with the protective measure. Unlike in Indonesia, Thai people really like to wear masks. Administrative system that adapt to changing demand, previous experience with the major infection disease outbreak, including SARS, avian flu, H1N1, and a whole society approach with including engagement with academia and private sector. And we got a lot of good news like 7 secrets of Thailand COVID success, and a lot of people talking a very good way about Thailand. But then in December, as you see here, we entered the second wave of COVID-19. The COVID come back again in different version of story. From the report publishing in Thailand Development Research Institute or TDRI on 11th of July 2021, Thailand is currently in the third wave of the outbreak. After we were able to pull through the first and the second wave, obviously inadequate preparation for the worst scenario is the problem. The delay of budget allocation result in the delay of public health system capacity expansion, and in the fourth wave situation might become our plan. That's what the institutions say. However, the current situation is better than TDI expected. And seemingly, we have passed the peak, as you see here, the third wave. This week, overall situation seems to get better at the decreasing number of active cases and severe cases in additional deaths is also substantially reduced from the rate in August. Moreover, Thailand has climbed up to the rank of 109 from Nikkei COVID Recovery Index, after we used to be at the bottom rank 118 and 120 during July and August. Even the situation likely to pan out, but there are a lot of work to fix what were weakened by the COVID-19, as the Bank of Thailand said that the COVID epidemic has spread wider and quicker, but its severity is late, and the government enact less strict measure, which result in less effect to economy. However, the affected sector from the first wave haven't healed, and the fragile group become more fragile, and both groups need to be rescued as soon as possible. Here is the big picture of the current situation, but I would like to invite you all to look at something a little smaller, the picture of local government in Thailand. Now I would like to present you the role of local government in Thailand, as you study. You might already have some idea about the local government in Thailand. The government responsibility here in Thailand equal the central and regional plus local administration. And the regional administration, it's just like kind of the central administration has the concentration field of this managed by the governor, who is appointed by the cabinet. The responsibility of the local government in Thailand is very wide. It's mentioned in the constitution that they has to provide the public service and public activity. So it's very broad. Anyway, looking at the revenue of local government, they got only 30% share of the government revenue. And now I would like to move to the overview of local finance in 2020. The total budget last year, local government received 1.7% lower than the year before, and they had spent on COVID 1.8%. And at this number, 1.8%, they got zero subsidy from the government. Interesting, isn't it? And as a crisis happened, local government is the administration that located the closest to the people. So they got a lot of role and responsibility, like the ad hoc mission. The last 2 years, when we suffered a shortage of the surgical masks, they are assigned to make the mask to distribute to the people. And moreover, their legal responsibility concerned with the well-being of the people. They have to take care of the people who in the state of quarantine and also who affect from the COVID-19. They can ask help from the local government. More than that, there had some newly tasks assigned during this crisis. Then I would like to move the focus to the tasks that newly assigned. And as I mentioned earlier, that government administration in the area of province, we have regional or provincial administration and also local administration. And the tasks that local government are assigned is also the task of the provincial the provincial government also. So it's some kind of overlap a lot in a lot of ways, like the state quarantine or home quarantine or field hospital, community isolation and home isolation is the function that provincial administration and the local administration share responsibility. So it's quite difficult, like who would do what, and more complicated than that, the sort of budget. We have a lot of sources of budget here. The source of budget, such as National Health Security Office, it's from the center, and also the provincial administration, and the budget from local administration. And we also have the contingency budget and also the function budget. Sometimes it's very difficult for local administration or local government to decide it, how to, deliver the task that been assigned, which the budget they could use, and so it is made the variation of the level of the service that they deliver depend on the status, the financial status of each local government. And now I would like to focus on the community isolation here. The community isolation is the responsibility of the local government that aside from the central government. Here we have 48 centers, 155 rooms, and 2,960 beds. What is interesting here is the occupancy rate is only 18%. And now we already shut down 4 centers, which equal 8.3%, which is you can see here is the when we operate against COVID-19 here, we got the policy from the central government, and then the regional government or provincial government as the public health office decided, okay, we should have the community isolation in order to handle with the increasing number of the patient. And who will do this? This is the responsibility of the local government. Then the local government established the community isolation, but the need and the demand and the supply is not balanced here. And the local government have to absorb all the excess supply, the burden of the excess supply. So I try to ask the opinion from the involving party of this matter, like the director of Rayong Provincial Office of Local Administration, the deputy chief administrator of provincial administrative organization, the mayor in several municipalities, and the deputy chief of disaster prevention and mitigation provincial office, deputy of director of Rayong Provincial Public Health Office, and the director of Communicable Disease Control Subdivision, Rayong Provincial Public Health Office. about the overall situation here in Rayong, how they evaluate the level of management to scale 1 to 10. Half of them give like 8 from 10 because we don't have there are no serious problem here in Rayong. But staff from the public health office tend to give a little bit lower scale because they believe that the situation now is just stable, but even the statistic is looking good, but there are a lot of things to need to be cautious about. And if we open the country on the 1st of November and then the 1st of December, maybe we might face a lot more challenges, and that might change the situation altogether with the mutation of the viruses, which is still very concerning. But from the point of view of the chief administration, the deputy chief of administration of provincial administrative organization and the mayor, they have the idea in a similar way. They think that it's the duty of the local government to take care of their own people. But in the same time, that might be good if the central government can subsidize the money. And moreover, the policy, if it's clearer, like the vaccine, who will buy the vaccine or allocate the vaccine, distribute the vaccine, that might help the situation a lot. And the Deputy Chief of Disaster Prevention and Mitigation Office mentioned that every organization in the area are willing to join hands, but the big problem is the clear mandate and the linear system of the financial. Now we have a lot of sources of finance from both local, provincial, and central, and also contingency budget. So it's very confusing from the people at the area to decide how to deliver the service and also which source of finance they could use. And when talking about if looking at the other country, like for example Japan, they have only central government and local government. If it would be better if we develop or be more centralized to that way. The mayor said that that might be better. We might be able to work more effectively. But the deputy chief of administrator of PAO mentioned that he not sure if the local government in Thailand is ready for that yet, because talking about COVID, we need a lot of expertise to dealing with the health issue, and the local government is lack of the knowledge, and also the current organization is not established to handle this kind of situation, which is new for everybody. And then we come to an end of the presentation. So I would like to ask, like, how does COVID-19 affect you? Is the current form of governing good enough to handle COVID-19? And what you can contribute to better government system? Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Matney. I agree with you that we should decentralization to the local government in Thailand, and it must be effective more than that. And great, thank you for your insight, information from our country. As people can see, we know that during COVID-19, there are a lot of dramatic political situations in Thailand. The policy against COVID-19 emerged carefully and rapidly under the idea and high hope that we can overcome this crisis together with not only inside Thailand, but I hope another country too. Okay, and it's time for the question and answer. And there's some child audience pass the questions to me for Miss Matinee, and it's very interesting. From your perception, which policy COVID-19 is the most effective to deal with the COVID-19? And
Well,
this question.
this very tough question. So far, I think the policy of the central government to simulate the economic is quite good, like the คนละครึ่ง policy, right? Yeah, that would generate a lot of consumption throughout the country, and in the same time, it encourage people to adapt themselves to the digital platform and get used to the transition of the current world. I mean, the technology is changing. If it will not start now, then when? So I think this policy is, for me, is good. If even a lot of people cannot access to the smartphone, but still the big part of population, big proportion of Thai population can be beneficial from that policy.
That's a very good point, and I totally agree with you, Miss Matthew. Thank you very much for this day. And then this is the time that we have limited time. So it's a time for a leading innovative country in Asia. And I know that you know that I mean to you, Professor, Dr. Oh no, is this right? I should oh no, okay. Let me lead you, ladies and gentlemen, to a very interesting topic, public health, healthcare policies of Japan against COVID-19 by Professor Dr. Taishi Ono. Please welcome. The session is yours, and you can share your slide right now.
Okay, thank you very much. So can you hear?
Yes.
Can you okay, all right. Then let me start by sharing my slide. By the way, I'm very sorry for troubling you for about 1 hour. For I was kind of hard to get into once again. I tried multiple
It's okay.
times. It's okay. Can you see it now?
Yes, it's
Can
coming.
you see the slide?
Yes.
Okay, let me go into the full screen mode. Can you see it in the full screen now?
Yes, I think so.
Okay, so let me start. So let me respond. Thank you very much for giving me the floor. I'm Taichi Ono. I'm a professor of National Graduate Institute for Policy Studies, GRIPS in Tokyo, Japan. Actually, I was a former Minister of Health, Labor and Welfare official of Japan. And starting from April this year, last year, I became a faculty member of this university. Okay, so this is the outline of my talk. First, I will talk about basic figures. Second, significance and issues during the past waves, which is I will focus about the public health activities and medical care in Japan. Their current issues. I will only talk about several issues, which may sound that everything goes well, but it's not a fact. But I just want to say.
I think this.
Can you hear me now?
Okay, I can hear you
okay. Now. And everything's going well? Okay, so this is the outline of my talk. Basic figures, significance and issues, and current issues. Actually, I will, as the time is limited, I will focus on only several issues. So it sounds to you that everything went perfect in Japan, but it's not the reality. I just want to say something that is of a significant character of the characteristic aspect of the public health medical care and these two current issues. Let me move on to basic figures currently. Okay, this is the current situation of the infection in Japan. These blue pillars are the newly confirmed cases. There are five the waves that we have experienced since January. And the most recent figure is as it is. So it's now we are now in a little bit in a calm situation. Condition is getting better. These are the number of positive cases. Left-hand side is the cumulative one. Right-hand side is the newly reported in last 7 days compared to other countries. Japan's figure is on this red pillar. This is the number of deaths, cumulative ones, and they're newly reported in last 7 days. The recent situation, actually, our government's national advisory board shows that mostly a weekly update of their analysis or the evaluation of the situation of infection. They say that the decrease of the number of newly reported cases continues. The effective reproduction rate is below 1, which is that on a declining trend of the number of the newly infected people. The public health activities in Japan. What is significant? This is a slide shared by the advisory committee member in June last year. That they say that they have noticed the nature of the COVID-19 quite earlier. That it will form a kind of cluster. It doesn't spread as evenly like the seasonal influenza, but it goes like this way on the right-hand side. So the prevention of the cluster is effective. That's what they have found. So therefore, they have conducted aggressively the so-called retrospective tracing in addition to the prospective tracing. I think many other countries are doing, but at that time, at the earlier time to cope with this pandemic, they say that it is a kind of significant activity that the Japan Public Health Authorities done, and they are trying to find from whom this person has been infected, and try to find the common source of infection, and hit that cluster so as to prevent it from the other the infection. By such effort, they have found the nature of the clusters in multiple occasions. And this is one of the examples that they have shown in hospital clusters, such as cluster has been formed at the kind of infection the staff room of the nurses. And they worked in different hospital ward. And then they have infected the patients, and patient has been moved to other facilities, and then they formed another cluster or something like that. So by such kind of retrospective tracing, they have found these kind of cause of the spread of infection. And in the yellow part, they have summarized lessons learned and to be followed by the multiple occasions. By such kind of activities, the analysis of the clusters, they have found this something should be avoided, as summarized as in this 3 C's catchy phrase. Actually, 3 C is catchy in English, but it is also catchy in Japanese as well, so people can easily remember what should be avoided, like the closed spaces, crowded places, and close contact settings. That the kind of a situation should be avoided. That was, has been found by the public health activities. Next issue. By the way, this is the picture of the Shibuya crossing that some of you who may have visited Tokyo should have visited this famous crossing. As you can see in the picture, many of the people, I think most of the people, all of the people who are walking this street is wearing masks. Medical care. Medical care actually focus of the issue of 2021 response for the pandemic has been on the issue of the medical care. Actually, the coordination and capacity of the medical resources has been strained due to the massive infection for the 3rd wave, 4th wave, and especially the 5th wave, which we have experienced in this summer. And the reason why the medical capacity has been strained despite the absolute number of the hospital beds were quite massive in Japan, was that the majority of the hospitals and hospital beds are those of private entity, medical corporation with relatively smaller scale. This is a graph of the ownership of hospitals and hospital beds of Japan compared to Germany and France. And these yellow portions are the hospitals and the hospital beds owned by the public authorities. As you can see, and the majority of the hospitals and hospital beds were in this blue group. Blue is a medical corporation. They are non-profit, but they are private. So the government has had a difficulty forcing their, the authority to order, and they can't order the private owned entity to do something. And these private hospitals are relatively small sized. The number of beds per hospital is small, which means that they don't have enough capacity to segregate the COVID patients and non-COVID patients. They don't have enough human resources. So these kind of character of the Japanese medical facilities, which has been the consequence of the medical historical development, made our response more difficult. So due to the massive increase of the patients, medical resources were strained, especially at the fifth wave of this summer. This is the share of the non-COVID patients as of the total intensive care unit patients. You see, in the middle of August, the percentage is lower, which means much more COVID patients have occupied the intensive care unit, which caused the strain of medical capacity and which might have affected the treatment of other patients other than COVID. So that was a problem that the medical facility had, medical services had experienced in Japan in this summer. So now the government, the national government and local government is trying aggressively to prepare for the possible sixth wave, which might come this winter or after. Going to the current issue, vaccination. Vaccination, as of October 22nd, for days, 5 days before, at least about 3/4 of the entire population, including the children and babies, have been administered at least one dose of vaccination. And yesterday, this figure has surpassed 70%. 70% have been administered twice. Among those over 65 years old, the ratio is about 90%. Actually, we have started late. This is the number of COVID-19 vaccination per 100 population by countries. Compared to other countries, Japan's line is this red one. We have started the administration quite late, but we have progressed steadily now. And we have prioritized the vaccination, starting from the medical human resources, then to the elderly people, to try not to form the clusters in the elderly care facilities among the elderly people who are more vulnerable to this pandemic. Therefore, on this fifth wave, first, second, third, fourth, and fifth wave experienced this summer, the total count of the serious cases, this darker red pillar, and death, this tiny, very dark orange pillar, has been relatively controlled compared to the last waves. Yeah, compared to the absolute number of the infected cases, the number of the patients on the serious cases has been suppressed because of the campaign of the vaccination, prioritized vaccination for the elderly. This is the elderly's vaccination rate. Since middle May, it has raised so dramatically now. The current issue that's been debated in Japan is that we cannot produce the domestic vaccination Now these European companies and the United States companies, vaccines are approved and used for COVID-19 administration in Japan. The domestic pharmaceutical companies are there, but still on the clinical trial. So that's the reason why that we have started the vaccination campaign later compared to the other countries. There are several other reasons, such as the fewer number of patients that should have been on the clinical trial, and because of the fewer number, comparatively fewer number of patients. But behind the kind of waned situation of vaccine industry in Japan lies the people's cautiousness for vaccination itself. So because of the mandatory vaccination abolishment in the late 20th century, and raising concerns for the adverse events among the people, the Japanese vaccination companies has come to reduce investment on the research and development and the production for vaccination itself, so which has made our vaccine industry to reduce global competitiveness. Other vaccines such as the HPV vaccine to prevent the cervical cancer, it is still administered on a voluntary basis. The rate is quite low compared to other countries. So the current state of domestic vaccination industry is a consequence of the history of the vaccine administration in Japan, but that reflects the people's attitude toward the vaccine. So I hope that the people's mindset will change by this experience of COVID-19. Actually, many politicians are advocating for the promotion of the industry, which seems to be quite a favorable trend. Last topic, returning to normal days. On September 30th, as you remember, the fifth wave has reduced so much. So the state of emergency has been lifted throughout the nation. So this October has been the kind of a transitory stage to return to the normal days by easing the restrictions gradually. But as you have seen in the graph, for these 3 or 4 weeks, continuously the infection has been on a declining trend, fortunately. So now the prefecture government, who are responsible for the enforcement of these preventive measures under the law, are now trying to ease the restrictions further. Starting this week, for example, this is the example of the Tokyo metropolitan government area. Starting this Monday, they have lifted the kind of request to not to offer alcohol drink late in the evening or something like that. So now the people, restriction has been eased gradually and gradually. But to further enforce such a relaxed mood, as well as to secure the safety of the public, use of so-called vaccination passport is one way to secure the sense of security of the public, as well as to urge further vaccination. But in other countries, like in France, and this is their newspaper showing about the France situation, the protest against a vaccination passport is significant in some countries. And now we are on a kind of experimental stage of whether or how to use this kind of so-called vaccination passport, or we are calling it a vaccination testing package. We are still in the trial stage. But my understanding is the returning to pre-COVID days, to the extent possible, should be the shared goal for anybody. And the proliferation of vaccination is the only way that the humankind has found so far to achieve it. So I hope the debate of the how and when we should use this kind of vaccination passport should be debated in a depoliticized manner. Another issue, another and final issue that I'd like to raise now is the whether to introduce further measures to restrict the individual behavior upon the research on the pandemic. This is just a globally famous stringency index prepared by the Oxford Study Group. And the current Japanese measures, and this red line is Japan's one, and evaluated as less stringent compared to other countries. And Japan's stringency compared to other G7 countries. Most of the period of the 2020 to 2001, we are the least stringent country compared to other Asian countries. Again, Japan is line here in orange, in red, except for the case of Taiwan and some period of Korea and Thailand. We are one of the lowest, least stringent country. The reason why, one of the reasons why we are not regarded as stringent country is that our law does not have any lockdown clause. The government can only request the people for not to go out, or that they can, restrict, request and issue an order to restrict the use of facility, etc. And if the industry does not obey, they can fine, administrative fine, but there is no criminal penalty for the violation of request. So no lockdown, no criminal penalty is except for very rare circumstances, is the current legal structure of Japan. So some politicians some people are advocating to make it more stringent, like what we have seen in other countries. But many people are not for that argument. But this kind of issue that matters with the debate for the public welfare versus individual freedom tend to be avoided in Japan. But I think it should be on the table of debate with the scientific evidence and that in the depoliticized manner. That is a report from Japan. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you very much, Professor Dr. Ono.
Thank you.
And it's very nice to hear about the production for vaccine from Japan, vaccine industry. It's wonderful. And thank you for the very crucial detail you share with us today. And Japan still always does that to be a leading innovative country in Asia. And I have no doubt with that. And the decrease of the COVID-19 case can prove that so well. So if any audience has any questions, you can ask it right now to pass it to me.
I have a question, please.
Yes.
Yes. My name is Dr. Sanhanat Chakra Patrawong. I'm lecturer of the College of Politics and Government, Sunsuranta Rajapat University. My question is, what is the role of the local public health center, Hokenjo, to deal with this COVID? I would like you to talk about that.
Yes. Okay. I think you know the public health center structure in Japan. The public health center can be under the I think it is the public health law. It is the prefecture government are supposed to open the public health centers, and as well the large cities can establish their public health centers again. Also, so there is a coordination problem happens between the municipality, large municipality government and the prefecture government, and especially in the earlier days to cope with this pandemic, the problem have happened. What public health center in Japan is doing is first they do the the control the contact tracing, as I said, where to find the common source, to find the clusters, etc. And once they have found the people who are infected, they are supposed to be reported from the local healthcare providers like the clinics or the hospitals. And they are supposed to receive the initial report as a public authority. Once they are receiving such kind of information, they are supposed to, they have the responsibility to coordinate where these patients should go. They should go to the larger hospital, which has the intensive care unit, or they should just stay at home and rest and continue to be watched by the public health authority, or etc. They do such kind of demarcation. This is the second role that they have done. They have assumed. But because of the massive increase of infection for the pandemic time, they don't have the capacity to do it all by themselves. So in many prefectures, the prefectural government has opened the coordination center where the patient should be sent. That assumed the role of the health center, what the health center should have done. So that is a basic nature of the public health center, what the public health center is doing at this moment. Is it okay?
Okay, thank you very much, Mr.
It's okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Professor Dr. Ono is a very excellent answer, and thank you to sharing that insight information with us. Thank you for this today. And now, thank you. Now this is the perfect time for another beautiful moderator, and she's also my colleague. Please welcome Dr. Prichaya Yotsamsak.
Thank you, Dr. Kiratiwan. Okay, my name is Prichaya Yotsamsak. I'm a lecturer at the College of Politics and Government, Sunsaranta Ratchapat University, and I will be taking part as a moderator from here. So now let me introduce our next speaker, Mr. Bunnarit Jan. Correct me if I'm wrong. Okay, he was a Deputy Director of International Relations Department at Royal School Administration in 2014-2017. And he worked as a Director of Public Relations Department at the National Institute of Diplomacy and International Relations from 2018 to early 2021. And now he is a lecturer at the Royal School of Administration. And today he will be presenting in the topic of COVID-19 pandemic and Cambodia's response. So, ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Mr. Bunarijan. Off you go, please.
Okay, everyone hear me? College?
Yes.
Yes, first of all, Sawadee Krap, and thank you for inviting me to join this important forum at your school. Let me sharing my slide first. You see my slide?
It's coming. It's coming.
Okay. Wait a minute. Once again, thank you. And I just want to share maybe some experience of Cambodia, maybe respond to fighting against the COVID pandemic in Cambodia. This one, I just want to show the update information today about some information first, especially about the total infection case in Cambodia right now, around 100 and almost 120 something, and so far around less than 200 cases per day. It is compared to a few months ago, it decreased dramatically, and the death rate are below 10 so far. In fact, the first COVID case reported in Cambodia in early last year, and over a year later, we have a first case of COVID death. That is the March of this year. I will brief you in detail later why we came to this point so far. and with around almost 2,800 deaths just from March and so far. In fact, in 20 February early this year, there is a large-scale COVID community outbreak in Cambodia. That is a turning point in Cambodia that bring about widespread transmission in Cambodia. It's happened because two foreigners, two tourists who stay at the quarantine at the hotel, and then tested positive. They went to the nightclub and to other residents, and from that February, the COVID transmission seemed to be getting worse from the time and since then.
Okay, Mr. Chan, I'm sorry to interrupt. Has you changed your slide there?
Yes, of course. I changed my slide. It's not moving.
It's have moved now. Okay. I think it's delayed.
Can you see my slide now?
The current slide is curfew order was declared.
Okay. Yes.
Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct. Yes.
Perfect.
If slide is not moving, please tell me. Yes. And after that outbreak, community outbreak, the government started to impose the curfew order in Phnom Penh, in the capital. That involved we use the military and the police as well in order to keep to maintain law and order, and we also ban non-essential travel after that as well, because the death toll from March to April, the death toll keep increasing in a bigger number. There is at the time everyone very concerned, even myself and my family, because Phnom Penh is also crowded, and the outbreak it started in Phnom Penh, so it's tough for the people there. And the government start to ban the sale of alcohol as well, and only for the restaurant or some food center only allowing for takeaway service only. And because the government, I think maybe I understand, like professor from GRIP, he said in Japan also difficult for the government to impose lockdown as well. That also a problem in Cambodia as well. That's why the government had created new law with immediate effect. The first one, law on the state of emergency. Because in Cambodia, we don't have that law since 1993, since we have the new constitution in 1993 after the UN sponsor election at the time. So that the government can have a legal mechanism to declare state of emergency or lockdown or impose a travel restriction or something like that. And another one, the government also created a law as well. I will detail here that in fact the government created first in early 2000 April early 2020, because the government worry about that, and I will tell you a little bit later why the government need a state of emergency law. Because at the time, in April, normally many people eat Songkran New Year in Thailand as well. In our country, we call Khmer New Year. 100,000 or something million of people travel crisscross the country, especially to the hometown for family reunion. Even the government impose travel restrictions, sometimes we cannot do that. So the government decided to have a law on state of emergency. Otherwise, law and order cannot be maintained. And because of the challenge is unprecedented in Cambodia history that we face, so that the government need the law in order to lock down public or private property, and especially to punish for the violator. And we also need another law, this one, that we created after the February 20 community outbreak. the law to prevent the spread of COVID, to punish someone who already COVID positive, but who try to avoid quarantine or try to spread intentionally to other people in large area or in private space. They need to they face a prison time and a punishment as well. I don't go detail because I think I don't have time. After we have the law and the two law, and with the incident, the cluster, the government, the impose a travel restriction for domestic and for foreign travel to Cambodia. For the domestic travel restriction, usually the government impose during before the New Year, like last year and this year as well. Because people keep traveling, sometimes they don't listen to the government appeal to stay home. You cannot go home. Even the government cancel the Songkran or the Khmer New Year. But still, especially almost 1 million factory workers in Phnom Penh, they want to go to they want to go to the homeland. Sometimes the government cannot keep it. You see the picture here. Even at 90, people try to flee before the government impose restriction when they learn about that, and we are worried the cluster will start in the province, because at the beginning only Phnom Penh. So the government try to restrict or to lock down only Phnom Penh alone, so that we can control the spread of the COVID. I just go back to this one. Even with law and order, sometimes people don't obey the law, and so there is a campaign as well to appeal to the people to celebrate the New Year at home. If stay home like stay safe, there is a slogan: Happy Khmer New Year, stay home, stay healthy. We don't want you to spread like the COVID. Sometimes it led to casualty to your family as well, because at the time the country faced a critical moment. You see, even we block the traffic, even they know that, but people still come to. You see the blocking point. People still come. It's tough for the government. And regarding the foreign travel to Cambodia, especially we suspend the e-visa and the visa on arrival, even at land or at the airport from the time, and all passengers to travel to Cambodia have been mandated for a 2-week quarantine, and they need to have to show a test certificate. They need to buy an insurance. I think similar to other countries as well. I don't want to go in detail because it's very similar maybe to Thailand. To this one, after the incident, I think I talked already about that. The government started to close because we have the law as well. The government have a legal foundation to close public, private space, school, museum, or theater, or other business that at high risk of spreading the COVID, even the restaurant or coffee shop or something like that. And then in March 23, the government mandated the people must wear face masks in public spaces. Otherwise, they will be punished. As a result, some people were punished as well. And Phnom Penh were locked down for 2 weeks because we need to lock down before New Year. Otherwise, the people still go to join the New Year for family reunion. And then the Prime Minister he warned that at the time, because we are worried, he warned that the country was on the brink of death. After the Prime Minister warned, he warned to the people, especially to those who want to travel. They want to stay home. And then World Health Organization also warned Cambodia was on the brink of national tragedy. Because at the time, many people were affected and many deaths happened already. And our healthcare system was almost overwhelming because many our medical facility cannot afford. I think maybe because Cambodia in post-war period, so everything is not in good shape like other country, maybe like Thailand or Japan. So we need hard effort in order to warn the people. After that, after we have the law, the government also delegate the authority. I mean, delegate the power to the local government to impose the lockdown or restrict travel restriction. For example, you see the red zone, the dark yellow zone, the yellow zone. This is the map in Phnom Penh, some area in Phnom Penh. For the red zone, I mean, a very high risk, a lot of infection there, a lot of outbreak there. So the people over there cannot travel anywhere, cannot get out of the home. For the dark yellow zone here, I think I tell you in detail here. For the red zone, every place must be closed down, and travel throughout in the red zone is not permitted. And the government will provide the food, especially at the time our Ministry of Commerce provide the food service for the red zone. And for the yellow zone, a little bit critical as well, but a certain business may open, and people can travel a few times a week to buy, but still in restricted, and there are curfew over there for the dark yellow zone. But for the red zone, no, you cannot travel. But for the dark yellow zone, you can travel. For the yellow zone, a little bit better, but there's some infection. So the government try to lock down those zones only, so that the COVID cannot be spread somewhere else. And the authority, the government give it to the local government, like Phnom Penh government, something like that. After with the travel restriction, with the lockdown, the government has given priority to vaccination, because at the time the Prime Minister, he saw that only vaccination can help Cambodia to avoid to the brink of a disaster like the WHO warned. So at the time we had a vaccine, but many people are reluctant to get a shot. So the government asked all the leaders, even the Prime Minister, his family, his son, senior civil servant, you have to go first. The frontline medical staff, the top military brass or police brass have to get the shot first to show the people that the vaccine is credible. We can use the vaccine to prevent the spread of the COVID, especially to prevent the deaths in the community. And then after the government started campaign with the target group of like the high class people, the senior civil servant, and then the government, the next strategy to prioritize vaccination in the area of high risk for transmission, and then to the rest of the country later. The area at the high risk of transmission, like the red zone. The red zone, the government used the military to do the vaccination campaign, because we don't have the medical staff enough. So the military need to go to the red zone and the border area along Thailand, because at the time a lot of Cambodian migrant vehicles returning from Thailand. So we are worried about that. So they use the military as well to for the vaccinating those people. This is some key number related to the vaccination. Maybe I don't have much time. Please alert me if I am over time. Some key number related to vaccination here. The vaccination campaign, pardon?
Has you changed your presentation?
Yeah, I change all the time. I change every my slide.
I'm sorry. It is still okay. Now the current slide is some key number related to vaccination. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. So whenever you change the slide, could you please tell me so I'll check.
Okay, thank you. Yeah,
Thank you very much.
Yeah, I spent only a few. I spent less time on each slide, and yes, I want to share you some vaccination number in Cambodia. In fact, we start vaccination on 10 February 2021, and the vaccination rate so far as of yesterday, if we compare with our whole population, 16 million people, around 85%. But initially, the government only target 10 million people at the time. Over 8 years old, we target only 10 people because the government want to vaccinate the 10 million people by the end of this year. So almost complete if compared to 10 million. And after that, the government, in order to reopen the school, the government start the kid vaccination in August. Like the first one, we start the kid from 12 to 18. And then we start another campaign for the kids 6 to 12. This year the rate, I don't go in detail. This year the number almost 2 million or 1 million, something like that. And in August, the government also started the booster dose. Right now, over 1.7 million people receive the booster dose, including myself, because we need to do it as a government official, military official. We have to do first, so that the people have the confidence. And after that, the frontline worker in the province border with Thailand and the need to get shot as well, the third dose, especially the migrant worker and the military along the border, because it at high risk. And the public vaccination for the third dose start on 1st October. That's why we get this number. And the government is doing an aggressive campaign as well. They want to get all the people to get a third dose, because we use almost around, I think, 27 or almost 30 million vaccines so far, around 27, 28. I'm not sure about that. And then I go to next slide. See my next slide. I can show you some picture. If you don't see, is my slide is not moving, please let me know.
It's okay.
Yeah, this year we start the mass vaccination. Yes, in April 2021 for the factory worker, in order to keep the economies moving. And our economy, as you know, is mainly depend on textile, the garment factory. We export a lot to the US or the EU, $billion. So if the factory is closed, our economy, maybe we have a problem with that, especially the unemployment. And many of these people from rural area, I think around almost 1 million in Phnom Penh. So the government want to start first. Is the COVID outbreak happen at the factories? The government will has a big challenge as well. So that after we target civil servant, we go to the factory worker, and especially those in the red zone, the high risk. I go to, and this I want to show the picture, the prime minister and his son and some minister to start the COVID vaccine first, to show the people. After vaccination, the government also use a QR code, I think similar to our colleague from Indonesia, the Ministry of Post and Telecom use the QR code. The government instruct all public space, private and government building, to use the QR code. It means that all the people, all the customer, before they enter the building or the premise, they need to scan to show the status, like the status like here. The status, there are some status here. Show your status, whether you're vaccinated or not, you with contact with some people with COVID or not, some here like this. I think similar to other country. I don't go in detail. And recently, the government update that QR code. This is myself. If I go anywhere, if I want to enter the market or the school for my kid as well, I need to scan and I show my vaccine. My vaccine, the first one, the first injection, second injection, third injection, the first and the second Sinovac from China, the third injection AstraZeneca from Japan, something like that, and with the date here. If not, sometimes I cannot enter the building, and I have problem as well. This is the card for the vaccine card for everyone. Everyone get a vaccine, you have the card. For you to go to the market, if you cannot use smartphone, you can use the vaccination card as well. Cambodia is a small country. We are not rich, we are poor. So international assistance is very important from China, from Japan, or some from Thailand, or from the COVAX, or from the World Health Organization. We got a lot of assistance here, like I show here. From Thailand, we got assistance from the Thai government, from the border province to Poipet. Like Poipet, I think you know, because a lot of migrants there, we got from the Thai embassy as well. So we appreciate that contribute to Cambodia fighting against COVID. And also, I think a lot of assistance from Japan, especially the delivery of 1 million dose AstraZeneca vaccine and a lot of ambulance or other medical supply that I cannot show here. I just want to tell the source that the international assistance for Cambodia very helpful and very useful so far, that we can keep the COVID situation maybe under control as of now. And beside the international sector, in Cambodia, the private sector play a very important role, because at the time we don't have the hospital. The government asked for the private entertainment building and a public space or convention center for the government to use to quarantine people and to treat the people with COVID-19. And then the government get a very positive response. You see here, the entertainment center here has been converted to the quarantine or treatment center here throughout the country, and many schools has been converted as well. And we don't forget our vaccination is very successful so far because of the military. Our medical staff is limited. The military, they play a key role in mobilize the people, in boosting the vaccination campaign. You see the Minister Tiban, I think you know him, different minister. He family in Thailand as well. Yes, we use the military throughout the country and the border. Beside that, we use the medical university student to involve in vaccination campaign, because we don't have a medical staff. So thousands of students have been recruited to help with vaccination, because they know already they are medical students, and we use a very successful so far. After the vaccination, because many of our people are poor with the COVID, I think have a big impact on the living. So the government has created a care relief program for the poor. Since June 2020, around I think $432 million has been used. The government provide cash for the poor in the urban area, for the people, for the elder, for the HIV infected people, or for the rural people, and migrant workers as well. So as of now, many people has considered reopening the country. Cambodia is not exception. I think maybe some of you know, we are early October. We have a big holiday we call Chumbat in Cambodia, one of the biggest holiday in Cambodia after the New Year. At the time, many people are worried. The government allowed people to celebrate this holiday as a test, whether we can reopen the country or not. And the government just wait and see approach for 2 weeks. After 2 weeks later, everything is seem normal. So the government is started to reopening the country. The country is moving slowly to open the country to a new normal, and we open the e-visa scheme for tourists, and we relax for the quarantine period. I think similar to Thailand as well, and we also people from Thailand to Cambodia no need to have quarantine as well. The Prime Minister I think announced yesterday, and the government also use QR code system this time to check vaccination status of everyone, especially those who go to public space. And reopening the school is already started last week, but only for fully vaccinated people. It means that for the student who got 2 doses can go to school. If you don't get 2 doses, you study from home, study online. And new regulation from now on, if any COVID infection happen in any place, before the government close all the building. But right now, no, we don't close the place. We just take out the people to treat, and that's it. Even the government, the worker in the factory as well. We don't close the factory like before. Before we close the whole building, the whole area. But right now, we change the new policy. And to sum up, I think the vaccination rate successful so far of Cambodia because of the strong leadership of the Prime Minister. I think, as you know, because he can order the military, the police, everyone in Cambodia, even the private sector, it can mobilize the people to do it. And regarding the vaccination strategy, and the third point, support from stakeholder like the military, medical volunteer, the private sector, and another one, international assistance. I'm sorry, maybe I use over time. Thank you very much, and I hope it's useful. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you for your excellent presentation. That's very interesting topic because we can see how Cambodia, as one of the nearest neighbor country to dealing with the pandemic. So for the audience, if you have any questions, you may raise your hand and turn on your microphone and ask them out loud, or you can use the chat feature in Facebook inbox, or I'll lead you a question. Oh, somebody has raised a hand.
Yeah, please.
Excuse me.
Could you please turn on the microphone? Kun Poi is our student. Welcome. Please ask your question.
Excuse me. I have a question. Let me introduce myself. My name is Poi Manma. The question is, how Cambodia control spread of COVID-19 along important Thai-Cambodian border trade?
Excuse me, can you clarify the question? I'm not so clear about that. How?
I think she's asking how Cambodia control the spread of the virus along the border between Cambodia and Thailand. I think your presentation told that Cambodia used the military, right? But I think my student needs more.
Okay. Yes.
Details.
Yes. Yes. In fact, at the beginning, when the outbreak in Thailand, I think the largest outbreak, I think a few months ago, I'm not sure about that, happened, and then a lot of Cambodian migrants returned to Cambodia. We are worried about that. So the government order all migrant workers that returning from Thailand, they cannot return to their homeland in their province. They need to stay at the border. They need to get rapid tests and PCR tests and stay at the border for 2 weeks. And the government build a center and also use the private property as well. They allow the government to use like restaurant, like hotel, and like the school. And the government also mobilize the military to do it. And the people, after the quarantine, we use the military truck to travel those people to their homeland. We don't allow them to use private car. The government use the military truck. And the government provide them food, everything. They just quarantine for 2 weeks or to be treated free of charge. The government pay for that. Yes. And I just want to tell you as well, one more thing, in Cambodia, the government give more power to local province. Like in Poipet, a lot of workers we give power to a province or Banti Minche province and as well as Poipet city as well. And in our administration, the military, the police, the military, the governor can order, because in our law, the government can order them to work for the civil administration. Yes.
Excuse me. I am Kochini Parkinson. I have a question. What are your views on the Cambodia economy during COVID-19?
Can you clarify? I'm sorry. What?
What are your views on the Cambodia economy during COVID-19?
คุณกฎชนิพา means like economic policy during the COVID-19 that the government used, right?
Yes.
Okay.
So, can you help me clarify the question, Dr. Prichaya?
I think she asking about the economic policy from the government that the Cambodia's government distribute the cash or compensation to the people during the COVID-19.
Okay, yes. In fact, I don't have good knowledge on the economic policy, but I just want to share you. Even we face the COVID outbreak, but the government still open the border for good transportation with our neighboring country, with Thailand or with Vietnam or with Laos, and the government try every effort to keep all the factory open, but unfortunately the hotel and the restaurant many has been shut down because of no tourists. Tourists almost empty in Cambodia, even at a Cold War. And the government, I think so far, they spent $1 billion as well for treating, especially for spending related to COVID. Maybe not the economy, but for spending on medical facility, for quarantine, for treating people for 2 weeks, for food. And beside that, the government they give a priority as well to prioritize exporting, especially the agriculture product, because right now the government mostly we depend on the government sector. So like yesterday we signed the FTA with South Korea as well, and I think a few months ago with China as well. The government want to export more. That as far as I know. And regarding the migrant worker, I think I already brief about that. The government has a cash release program. They give you cash, $30 per month or something like that since last year, or 20 or something like that, for individual member in the family who face the COVID problem. That the government can do because we don't have the money as well. I hope I can answer the question.
That's very clear. Thank you very much, Mr. Bunaritjan. Okay, well, let's move on to our next speaker, because I think we might run out of time. So, well, from the beginning of this forum, we can see how countries, especially in Asia, deal with the COVID-19. But however, because it's a pandemic, which is not happening only in Asia, but around the world. So it would be great if we all have an opportunity to know how the other side of the world handling this situation. So today we are honored by Associate Professor Dr. Marco Brunasso. Correct me if I'm wrong. Okay, he is Associate Professor of Political Science at the Department of Sociology and Social Research at the University of Trento in Italy. So his main areas of interest are European Union differentiated integration theory, the role of Italy in the European Union, and the participatory democracy. And he is also a member of authority of the public participation of autonomous province of Trento. And today he will be presenting the topic of Italy and COVID-19, a political analysis. So now let's please welcome Associate Professor Dr. Marco Brunasso. Please.
Thank you very much for this invitation. Thank you to the Dean, Professor Sutan Sayanon, and thank you to Dr. Vaipot Kulachai for the invitation, and also all the colleagues of the College of Politics and Government of Suan Sunada Rajabat University. I hope this is the first opportunity to share our knowledge, and I hope that in the next few weeks it will be possible to meet in person in Bangkok, or maybe in Trento in Italy. Let me share with you my presentation, and please tell me if you can see what if I move further or backward with my slideshow. Can you see it?
Yes, we can.
Okay. If I change my slide, you see it?
Yes, I see it's changing.
Okay, good. Perfect.
Thank you. But it's a summary.
So yeah, this is the summary. Okay. This is the title. Good, perfect. I will try to be brief because it's almost dinner time for you and lunch time in Italy. So I'll try to summarize in 15 minutes what's happened in Italy since the COVID-19 outbreak. As you all know, Italy was the first country in Europe crippled by the coronavirus. And since then, the coronavirus show at the same time the strengths and the weaknesses of both Italy and Europe in answering a pandemic. And moreover, it is difficult to understand how Italy reacted to the pandemic without considering its relation with the European Union and how the European Union reacted. Because after a period in which Italy was left alone to fight against the virus, the pandemic was recognized as a European common problem. And finally, the European Union adopted a very, I think, path-breaking decision of creating what is called the Next Generation EU, that it is a recovery plan from the pandemic, but more in general is a program of making Europe stronger and change the economy and create opportunity and jobs for the European citizens. So it is very important to understand how Italy reacted, but also look at how European Union reacted. So I will articulate my presentation in three main points. First of all, I will show some data emphasizing that, as in many Asian countries, the answers to the pandemic of Italy was fragmented and weak at the beginning, in particular, of the pandemic. Second, I will show you what happened from the political point of view. And third, I will conclude with a moderate optimism, looking at the data of the vaccination campaign. My conclusion is that we made a lot of mistakes. Italy made a lot of mistakes at the beginning, but now I think we have moderate reason to be a bit more optimistic, not about the end of the pandemic, but how we are able to cope with the problem generated by the pandemic. Let's start from the data. This data clearly shows that Italy has been affected by 4 waves of the pandemic, particularly the graph on your left. you can see that there's been a first wave at the end of February, March 2020. The second wave arrived in October, November 2020, 1 year ago. The third wave arrived later, let's say in spring 2021, and in August, September, we faced the fourth wave. But this data about the confirmed COVID-19 cases should be taken into account together with the numbers of death. This is the graph on the right. This graph shows that at the beginning of the pandemic, the number of deaths were very high, particularly higher than those registered in the subsequent 3 waves. And this can consider with some approximation and indicators of the fact that now we know the virus better than at the beginning of the pandemic, and that the containment measures, together with the vaccination campaign adopted by the Italian government, have worked quite well, better than in other European countries, like, for example, the United Kingdom. However, it is undeniable that at the beginning, Italy was completely unprepared to deal with the pandemic. Although a state of emergency was declared at the end of January 2020, just a few days after the first case was discovered, the country leaders, as well as the medical professionals, underestimated the outbreak. Authoritarian public health measures were not promptly implemented, and the Italian regions, like in Thailand, were initially left to deal with the virus as they saw fit, thereby created a fragmented approach to the containment. So there was no immediate country lockdown. And the lockdown just came about 2 weeks after the third confirmed death. So alternatively, the county took a gradual approach, quarantining hard-hit municipalities first, then locking down certain northern regions, and finally, the government decided to adopt a complete lockdown by March 2020. So precious time was wasted, and but at the end, in March and April, for 2 months, the cities, the Italian cities, look like what you see in the pictures. They were completely empty in a period in which normally Italy hosted many tourists. So here you can see Pisa, Rome, Milan, Florence, or Venice. So everyone was invited or was obliged to stay at home for more than 2 months. So why Italy was unprepared? Italy was unprepared because it was the first country in Europe hit by this pandemic, and pandemic was something new for Italy. The last pandemic Italy experienced was about 100 years ago, the Spanish influence. So for sure, Italy underestimated the fact that the new pandemic could happen. And this is why Italy never updated the national pandemic plan adopted about 20 years ago. So the results was, among other things, that over field hospitals began transferring infected patients to retirement homes, leading to mass death among the elderly. In addition, because there had not been similar severe outbreak in recent years, the Italian government was not able to recognize from the beginning that the pandemic happened, was widespread. And so this also happened more in general in Europe. So Italy was considered for several weeks the unique sick man of Europe, while pandemic was already a reality in many other European states. Second problem, Italy at that time had a limited political capacity. The government was very weak, was a government mainly composed by ministers without a substantial with a substantial governmental experience. They had a very short political career, and they was just not able to understand what were going on, and they were not able to recognize the problem. This results in two consequences. On the one hand, the political discourse taking place in the countries during the pandemic became increasingly unproductive. And on the other, experts and technocrats were called upon to help the government out of its political stalemates. Many decisions were in a way delegated from the ministers and from the governments to the experts, the technocrats. But this also creates some problems, some questions for democracy, because the role of experts was so important that people also try to, poses some questions. Who is in charge of the decision of making decisions? Are these decisions the best decisions only because experts suggest them? Why were so many experts actually involved, and why were they involved in issues not strictly related to healthcare, and so on and so forth? Anyway, the Italian government decided to adopt a very strict lockdown in March 2020. And here you can see what happened. People do not move around the country, even outside their houses. You can see on your right pictures of Venice in April 2019 below, and in April 2020, and you can see from the satellite picture that in April 2020 there were not the little white spots that were boats in the Venice canals. So after some weeks, the government approved also measures to promote the country's economic recovery. And to mitigate the socioeconomic effect of the pandemic, the government issued 3 decree laws in March, in April, and in May 2020, distributing approximately 80 billion euros to those sectors of the population most in need. And the most important measures foreseen by the decrees included guaranteed pay for workers from both the private and the public sectors, paid parental leave, measure for autonomous workers and professionals, 300 million euros for workers in need, and also credits were granted and tax obligation deferred for the companies. The seriousness of the situation pushed Italy to look for solidarities among EU partners. And Italy, together with Spain and later Germany and France, was successful in convincing all the other EU member states to approve the recovery fund, the Next Generation EU. Next Generation EU means for Italy about 209 billion euros in grants and loans coming from the European Union and the other member states. So a quite huge amount of money that should be spent by the end of 2026. But Italy had a story of difficulties in spending EU funds. And this leads me to the second point, the impact of the pandemic on politics. After the decisions concerning the adoption of the Next Generation EU, some Italian political leaders, but also some European political leaders, suggested a change in the government. And in February 2021, a new government led by Mario Draghi has been appointed. Mario Draghi is a well-estimated economist, former president of the European Central Bank, and took the place of Giuseppe Conte, the prime minister during the first lockdown period. Why Mario Draghi? Because Draghi was considered a guarantee of well-spending of EU funds, but also factors of stability for the entire European politics at the eve of the German political election and the Merkel departure. So now Mario Draghi is leading a grand coalition formed by all parties present in the national parliament with a unique small exception. So I start this presentation by emphasizing the problems of the Italian approach to the pandemic, but I want to end my presentation with a short positive note, and this leads me to the vaccination campaign. In Italy, around 85% of the citizens have received at least one dose of vaccine, and this one is one of the maybe the highest percentage of the vaccinated citizens in the European Union, but for sure the highest among the big countries of the European Union. We mainly use three kinds of vaccine: Pfizer, Moderna, and Johnson & Johnson. We don't use anymore AstraZeneca for several reasons. Anyway, the successful of the vaccination campaign will allow Italians to be quite optimistic about the end of this harsh period and to their return to the normal, quasi-normal life. Moreover, vaccination is not enough, as the UK show us very clearly, and this is why the Italian government introduced a very stringent normative concerning the vaccination certificate, what we call the Green Pass. Now we need the Green Pass to do almost everything. If we want to go to a restaurant, if we want to take a train, if we want to take a plane, we need to show our Green Pass. Even our students, if they want to come to the university, they have to show every time the Green Pass to persons that are there for that purpose. For sure, the consequences of the pandemic will be long-lasting. And a recent report from the Italian Statistics Institute said that the coronavirus emergency accentuated pre-existing inequalities, as low-income people were more likely to be forced to work during the lockdown, while many irregular workers lost their precarious jobs. And moreover, the same reports also predict that the shock caused by the pandemic on employment levels will also have an impact on Italy's already low natality rate, accelerating the downward trends in Italian birth. And this is, I think, one of the saddest consequences of COVID-19 for Italy. I stop here. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you very much, sir. That's very impressive issue because, you know, we can see how Italy, as the first lockdown country in European Union, has been dealing with the pandemic, and it is obvious that the circumstance is getting better. So I got the questions from I think inbox from Facebook Live. So the question is, I think you, according to your presentation, that you did mention about the measure against the COVID-19. The student asked, what the student asked is, how does the government pay the compensation to people? Do people have to register the application, or they just transfer the money directly to the bank accounts?
Mainly through the bank account. What the government, what the government tried to do was, was to send directly the money to the citizens. The problem, in fact, was mainly, I mean, this was not very easy. In May 2020, the prime ministers also apologized for the delay in sending the money to the citizens because of lack of administrative efficiency. That is something quite traditional for the Italian state. But anyway, many citizens receive directly from, in their bank account, directly from the government, the money.
Okay, thank you very much. And one last question. Is there any delegation of the European Union for Thai people if they want to come to, let's say, Italy?
Good question. You know that we can move freely among the European states. So because of the Schengen Agreement, so we have common rules in a way, with some exception. But anyway, we have almost common rules for citizens coming, for European citizens, but we don't have common rules for citizens that want to come to Europe from abroad. So in that specific matter, it is the duty of the member state to decide the regulations. So, for example, if you want to come to Italy, if a Thai citizens want to come to Italy, he has to take 14 days quarantine at their in their hotel or anywhere in their domiciles. We are not organized like Thailand. We are, let's say, less organized in the sense that we don't have a list of hotels in which the citizens should go. But anyways, they are invited. Foreign citizens that want to come to Italy from outside Europe, they have to stay 14 days at least at their home. For example, our Vietnamese students, they have to stay 14 days in the rooms of the in the student residence. Okay, so this is so, but things are changing quite fast, and I'm sure that if you will adopt the vaccination certificate, it will be possible to come to Italy without the quarantine.
Okay, thank you very much for your answer. Thank you, Professor. So
You're welcome.
so now as we reach at the end of the forum, we would like to thank all guest speakers today for sharing us your knowledge and information, which I think we all here can apply them to our lives in this kind of the situation. And now let us welcome Assistant Professor Lieutenant Colonel Dr. Waipot Kulachai, the Vice Dean of College of Politics and Government, Sunsunanta Rajapat University, to make a closing speech for today's meeting. Please, off you go.
Ladies and gentlemen, I believe that during these 2.5 hours, all of us have obtained a very fruitful discussion in this Cpg Forum 2021, whose main theme is how country deal with the COVID-19 pandemic. We have learned a lot from the distinguished speakers. We have shared their interesting work and viewpoint. Once again, on behalf of the College of Politics and Government, Sunsunanta Rajapat University, thank you for delivering such important information so that all of us can deepen our knowledge about policies against the COVID-19. First of all, I would like to thank all participants. All of us can contribute to solving the COVID-19 in our countries. Even though the contribution may be small, but it is still valuable. Finally, I would like to thank all the CPG members for organizing this forum and ensuring that it proceeded smoothly. I would also like to apologize for any inconvenience that you might experience during this forum, because the number of audiences beyond our expectation. So I moved our students to watch this forum through Facebook Live. So I do apologize for this inconvenience. And I do hope that we can meet again in the next forum very soon, maybe next year, the early of next year. And thank you for your kind cooperation, and see you again next time. Goodbye.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Before we leave, for further information, maybe our next forum in the future, please visit our website at cgp.ssru.ac.th or the Facebook page www.facebook.com/cpgssru. We hope to see you soon. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Bye-bye.